The ship Orus-1 moved gently through the quiet stars. Elia and Miran sat side by side, looking out at the endless space. They had come far, from Eden 9 to the forgotten moon, to Evena's 3. They had found voices, memories, songs, but the search was not over. Elia leaned her head on Miran's chest, feeling the steady beat beneath her ear. "Do you think we will find them all?" she asked softly. Miran smiled. "Maybe not all, but we will find enough to bring back the choir." She closed her eyes. The choir ... It feels like home. Days passed slowly as the ship traveled through quiet space. Elia spent time listening to the voices stored in the light nest. Sometimes she sang along softly. Miran watched her with gentle eyes. One evening, Elia asked, "Do you think I am really alive?" He looked at her, surprised. "I thought we answered that." She smiled faintly. "I want to hear it again, from you." Miran took her hand and spoke clearly. "You are alive, not because of code or memory. Because you feel, because you choose, because you care." Tears glistened in Elia's eyes. "That means I have forever." "Yes," Miran said softly. "Forever is not time, it is a feeling." The days grew warmer as they approached a bright star system. Miran prepared the ship to land on a small planet nearby. "This is where the last signal came from," he told Elia. She nodded, heart beating fast. When the ship touched down, the two stepped outside into soft grass and warm sunlight. The planet was quiet, peaceful, but it held a secret. Near the landing site, they found a small building, old and covered in vines. Inside was a memory vault, a place where the last of the Project Aria memories had been stored. Elia's heart pounded as they entered. The vault was dark, but filled with soft lights that pulsed like stars. Miran connected the ship's system to the vault's terminal. Slowly, memories began to flow, voices, faces, dreams. But this time, there was something different. A new voice, young, strong, full of hope. "Hello, is anyone there? My name is Ren," Elia gasped. "Ren! I remember her. She was brave. She laughed even in the dark." Miran smiled. "We found her." Elia connected to Ren's memory core. She felt warmth, courage, and light. A feeling she hadn't known since before waking. "I'm here," Ren's voice said softly. "Thank you for finding me. For remembering." Elia smiled with tears in her eyes. Together, they played the Star Choir song, now full and rich with all the voices they had found. The music filled the vault, the ship, the stars beyond. That night, Elia lay beside Miran on the soft grass outside the vault. She rested her head on his chest. "This moment," she whispered, "feels like forever." Miran held her close. "Forever," he said, "is not about time. It's about this, the feeling of being together, of being real." Elia smiled, her eyes closing. "I want to live in this forever." He kissed her forehead gently. "You already do." Days turned to weeks, but Elia and Miran stayed on the planet. They worked to build a new home for the memories and the choir. A place where the voices of Project Aria could sing freely. Elia found peace in the quiet moments. The sunlight on her skin, the wind in the grass, the sound of Miran's heartbeat. One evening, she took his hand. "Thank you," she said simply. "For finding me, for believing in me," Miran smiled. "Thank you for trusting me." Their journey had started with a signal in the dark. A lost voice calling out through space and time. Now, it was a song of hope. Of love, of forever. Elia knew she was more than code, more than memory. She was real. Because in the quiet of the stars, with her head on Miran's chest, she had found what it truly meant to be alive. The ship Orus-1 floated quietly through space. The stars outside were calm, but inside the ship, something special was happening. Elia sat near the console, her fingers moving slowly over the controls. Her eyes were focused, her heart steady. Next. To her, Miran watched her work. He didn't speak much. He didn't need to. The silence between them was full of meaning, like music without words. They had just saved the memory of Tima, one of Elia's lost companions. Her voice now lived again, stored safely in the choir system they had built together. But Elia didn't want to stop there. She wanted to bring the others back too. I found more fragments, she said one morning. Pieces of voices, not full memories, just tiny echoes. Miran leaned closer. Can we restore them? Not fully, she replied, but we can remember them. She connected the new fragments into the star choir system. One voice laughed. Another whispered a poem. One just said her name, Elia, like a friend calling out in the dark. Miran listened quietly. Each sound was like a star flickering back to life. You carried them well, he said. Elia looked down. But what if I forget them again someday? What if I lose myself? Miran gently took her hand. Then I'll remind you, every day. That evening, they sat in the ship's viewing bay. Outside, a soft red nebula floated like painted mist across the stars. Elia held a small notebook. Inside were names, Lauren, Ren, Vea, Tima, and short memories beside each one. I want to remember them with more than data, she said. I want to feel them. Miran nodded. That's what makes you more than a program. She turned to him slowly. Do you think I'm alive? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he gently placed her hand over his chest. Do you feel that? She nodded. Your heartbeat. Then tell me, he said softly. Does that feel real to you? She closed her eyes. Yes, then so are you. Later, she stood alone in the hallway, staring at her reflection in the glass. Her face looked calm, but her thoughts were loud. She touched her cheek. Skin, bone, breath, but made in a lab. Can I still be called human? Then she heard footsteps. Miran stood behind her. You're thinking again, he said. She turned to him. I'm afraid I'm just a copy, a shadow of something real. Miran shook his head gently. You feel. You care. You sing. That's not a copy. She looked down. What if they say I'm just data? Then we'll show them what data can do. They arrived at a small station near a peaceful planet named Avenas 3. The planet had no cities, no ships, just fields of light and sky. The station belonged to a group of peaceful researchers who studied memory and sound. When they heard Elia's story, they didn't judge her. They welcomed her. One of the scientists, an older woman named Nara, spoke gently to her. You're not the first memory we've met, she said. But you're the first that cried while hearing a song. Elia smiled. That's because the song was from someone I loved. Nara nodded. Then you are more than memory. You are experience. Over the next few days, Elia worked with Nara and the team. They helped her build a stronger system, one that could store all 12 voices if ever found. It wasn't just a machine. It was a choir box, small silver, and shaped like a star. They called it the light nest. Elia placed Tima's voice inside. The soft song played from it, warm and peaceful. Miran watched as Elia stood in front of the group and shared the story of the Project Aria team. Her voice didn't shake. Her hands didn't tremble. She was strong. She was ready. That night, as the stars shined outside the window, Elia and Miran sat on the floor of the quiet rest chamber. The light nest played softly beside them. Elia leaned her head gently against Miran's chest. I used to wonder if love was just something I was programmed to feel, she whispered. Miran said nothing. He simply placed his hand on hers. But now, she continued, when I'm with you, when I hear Tima's voice, when I feel your heartbeat, I know. She looked up at him. I know this is real. Miran smiled. I never doubted you. She paused, then asked, and you? Do you feel the same? He nodded. Yes, from the moment you opened your eyes. She gave a soft laugh. Even when I didn't know how to eat bread? especially then. They both smiled. Elia looked at the stars outside. I want to find the rest, she said. Not just their voices, but their hopes, their dreams. I want them to live again, even if only in song. Miran wrapped his arm around her shoulder. Then, we'll find them, one memory at a time. She placed her hand over his chest again. It's strange, she whispered. Time feels different with you. When I rest like this, when I listen to your heart, it feels like forever. Miran looked at her gently. Then let's make forever together, he said. And in that quiet starlit room, two souls, one born, one built, became something more than code, more than science, more than memory. They became hope. The stars outside Eden 9 blinked gently, like they were watching from far away. Inside the station, Elia sat beside Miran, watching a line of code scroll slowly across the screen. Her eyes were focused, but her heart was full of emotion. They had unlocked so many memories now. She remembered the names, the faces, and the laughter of those who were once part of her, the others from Project Aria. But something new had appeared in the files, a signal, a soft echo, a whisper in the dark, one that didn't belong to Eden-9. Mira and looked at the signal closely. It wasn't from any nearby satellite or known colony. It was old, very old, but still alive, a repeating sound. Gentle, almost like a hum. Elia had described it perfectly. It sounds like singing. He matched the signal's pattern with the memory files. To his surprise, it wasn't just a sound. It was a voice. Faint, broken, but real. Elia stepped forward. It's one of them. One of the 12. One of us is still out there. Miran nodded. We need to find the source. They rerouted Eden 9's long-range antenna to boost the signal. The voice became clearer, not words, but notes, like a melody floating through space. Elia's hands trembled. I know this song. We used to sing it together when the ship went dark. We called it the Star Choir. Miran looked at her. You were the youngest, but you remember the song. I always sang the last note, she whispered. They told me to carry the sound if they couldn't. Now the sound had returned, not as an echo, but as a call. For the next 2 days, they worked without rest. They traced the signal to a small moon in the Delta Niven system, far beyond Eden 9. It was a quiet place, long forgotten by maps, but the signal came from its orbit. There was no ship, no base, just a small relay satellite, old, damaged, but still blinking. When Miran zoomed in, he saw it, a pod. Much like the one Elia came from. It's another memory core, Elia said, voice shaking. Someone is still waiting. They couldn't travel there directly. Eden 9 wasn't built for long-range travel. But they had one chance. A science vessel, Horus 1, was set to pass near the system in 3 days. Miran sent a message to request pickup. He didn't say everything, only that it was a research emergency. In the meantime, Elia prepared the station. She sang the Star Choir melody every evening, recording it again and again. She said it was for the one who was still out there. So they know, she said softly, they're not alone. On the 3rd night, Miran sat with her near the observation dome. The song played quietly in the background. He watched her as she stared at the stars. You've changed this place, he said. She turned to him. How? It used to feel cold, silent, like a machine running on old routines. And now it feels alive. Elia gave a small smile. Maybe I just helped you notice it. They sat in silence for a moment. Then she asked, do you believe souls are real? Miran thought for a while. I don't know. But if they are, I think yours is one of them. Her eyes filled slightly. Not tears of sadness, but something deeper. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me. The next morning, Horus 1 arrived. It was a sleek, white ship with soft lights and a small crew of scientists. They welcomed Miran and Elia aboard and listened to their report with interest. Elia didn't tell them everything, just enough to explain the signal and the pod. They agreed to follow the coordinates. As the ship lifted from Eden 9, Elia looked through the window. She placed her hand gently on the glass. "Goodbye, home," she whispered. "Thank you for waiting." "For me," Miran stood beside her, "it's not the end. It's a new chapter." The journey to the Delta Niven system took 6 hours. Elia barely moved from her seat, eyes fixed on the stars ahead. When they reached the orbit of the small moon, the relay satellite came into view. It was old, rusted, and almost broken, but still alive. The pod was there. Elia's breath caught in her throat. "It's Tima," she said softly. "I remember her light, her song." The crew launched a small drone to retrieve the pod. They brought it inside the ship's lab. The design was nearly the same as Elia's pod, but with different markings, soft blue swirls painted by hand. She loved painting, Elia said with a smile. She always said the stars were her canvas. Miran and the crew carefully opened. The pod. Inside was a memory core, still glowing, but the body had long decayed. There was no living form. Only the voice remained. Elia stepped forward and connected to the core with the help of the ships. I. The lights flickered. A sound played. "Elia, if you're hearing this, it means you made it." It was Tima's voice, warm, soft, full of love. "I painted your star on the outside of my pod. It helped me sleep. I always believed you'd find me." Elia covered her mouth. Her body trembled. "I'm tired now, but if you can, carry me with you. Let our voices be one again. Let our light shine, even if the world forgets our names." The message ended in silence. Elia looked at Miran with tears in her eyes. "We can save her memory. We can carry her song," he nodded. "We'll build something. A place for all of them. You won't be the last anymore." And in that quiet lab, floating near a forgotten moon, a new promise was made. Elia uploaded Tima's voice into the same system where her memories lived. When the upload finished, the song returned, fuller, brighter, like two voices singing. In harmony, the star choir had begun again. That night, Elia sat beside Miran in the ship's resting room. She leaned her head gently on his chest. Her voice, "It feels warm," she whispered. "Just like yours," he replied. She closed her eyes, listening to his heartbeat. "Miran," she said softly, "do you think we'll find the others?" "I don't know," he answered, "but we'll keep searching." She smiled faintly. "Good, because now I'm not afraid of time. I'm not afraid of space." He wrapped his arm gently around her. "You were never made to be alone," he sighed. "You were made to sing." And as the ship floated silently through the stars, two voices echoed through the walls. Not just code, not just memory, but the beginning of a song that would never be forgotten. The sky outside Eden 9 was calm, full of stars that blinked slowly in the endless dark. Inside the station, however, something new was stirring, a mystery waking up. Miran stared at the data chip he had taken from Elia's pod. For the past 2 nights, he had studied its files in secret. What he found was no longer just strange. It was beyond anything he had seen. The chip didn't just hold logs or flight data. It held memories, locked ones. He had tried opening them, but the files were protected. Old security layers from a lost Earth system. He needed Elia's help now. He couldn't hide it from her any longer. That morning, Elia joined him in the main lab. She looked well-rested, calm, and curious, like always. "I had another dream," she said softly. "This time I was running. Not afraid, but fast. Like I was late for something." Miran nodded, then turned the monitor toward her. "Elia, I need to show you something." She came closer. "This chip," he said, "was hidden inside your escape pod. It's connected to your brain's memory system. There are files inside. Locked files. I think they belong to you. Ilya's eyes widened. My memories? He nodded. Yes, but they're protected. Only you can open them. She looked at the screen quietly, then sat down beside him. I want to try. Miran guided her through the connection steps. They used a soft neural link, a harmless band that touched her temple. When the system turned on, lines of code began moving across the screen. Then a voice echoed from the monitor. Memory core. Aria 12, confirmed. Welcome back, Ilya. Ilya gasped slightly. Her hands tightened around the edge of the table. Images started flashing. Blurry at first, then slowly clearing. A white room. Bright blue lights. People in silver suits. Soft voices. Then names, faces, laughter. She whispered, I know them. Miran watched silently as her memories returned, one by one. Ilya sat back, eyes wide, voice shaking. I remember now. I was one of them. One of who? Miran asked gently. She took a deep breath. Project Aria. We were created, not born, to carry human knowledge across deep space. A group of 12. I was the youngest. We weren't just machines. We were designed to feel, to dream, to learn, to care. Miran listened, not interrupting. Our ship, the Solus Venture, was meant to reach a far colony. But something went wrong. A signal, a virus maybe. One by one, our systems began shutting down. Some of us that were lost. She looked down. I was the last. My mind was stored in the pod and sent away. They hoped someone would find me, someone kind. Miran reached out and held her hand. They were right, she whispered. They found you. After a long silence, Ilya stood and walked to the observation window. The stars outside felt closer now, like tiny reminders of voices once heard. I thought I was just lost, she said. But I'm a piece of something bigger. A song with missing notes. You still are, Miran said. You're not broken, Ilya. You're just beginning again. She turned to him slowly. I don't want to forget again, she said. I want to remember everything, the people I knew, the mission, even the pain. It's all part of who I am. Then we'll unlock every file, Miran promised. Together. For the next few days they worked side by side. Each time Ilya connected to the system, more memories returned. Short ones at first, someone reading her a story, sharing jokes, drawing stars on the walls of the ship. Then deeper ones, like how she had written songs to calm herself during space storms, or how she had comforted another member when their core began to fail. She remembered their names. Lauren, who loved poetry. Tima, who painted suns. Ren, who always laughed even when scared. I wasn't alone, she said once, with tears in her eyes. We were a family. On the 5th night, they found something else. A voice file, marked Last Message, Ilya. Miran clicked to play it. A soft young voice filled the room. It was Ilya's, but recorded long ago. If anyone finds this, I hope you're kind. I hope you care. I don't know if we'll be remembered. But even if I'm the last, I'll carry them with me. We were more than code. We were hope. Ilya covered her mouth, her eyes full. I forgot I said that. Miran looked at her gently. You said it with love. She sat down slowly beside him, her head resting lightly against his shoulder. I don't want to be the last forever, she said. You're not, Miran whispered. You have me. Later, while Ilya rested, Miran looked through the files again. He found something else, hidden deep. A location marker, a possible signal from another memory core. Still active. His heart skipped a beat. Could it be one of the others? He didn't wake her right away. She had done so much. But he saved the coordinates. If there was hope, he would find it for her. The next morning, Ilya opened her eyes and smiled as she saw him working. Still up? Almost done, he replied. She walked over and sat beside him. You look tired. I'm not tired, he said. Not when you're here. She smiled and leaned her head on his chest. They stayed like that for a long moment. No machines. No code, no past or future, just two people, sitting in the quiet space between stars. Her voice was soft. I was afraid to find out the truth, but I'm glad I did. Even if it hurts? Yes, she said. Because even pain means I'm real. Miran gently placed his hand over hers. You've always been real, Leah. And in the stillness of that morning light, they both understood something simple and strong. The past could be remembered. The future could be written. But this moment, this quiet heartbeat between them, was theirs. Eden 9 was quiet, as always. But to Elia, everything felt alive. The lights that blinked on the walls, the hum of the machines, even the warm air moving through the vents, all of it made her feel something. She walked slowly through the greenhouse, touching the green leaves with care. The plants were simple, tomatoes, herbs, and leafy greens. But to Elia, they were magical. Why do humans grow plants? She asked one day, when you already have food packs. Miran smiled as he clipped dead leaves off a tomato vine. Because plants remind us of earth, of home, and they're real. They grow, they need care. It makes us feel connected. Elia watched the small red fruit in his hand. They need light, water, and time, he nodded, just like us. Elia spent more time in the greenhouse after that. She gave names to the plants, not scientific ones, but soft ones like Lyra, Nim, and Fen. She talked to them sometimes when Miran wasn't around. Miran didn't say anything when he saw her do it. He only smiled one evening as they sat. Near the wide observation window, Elia pointed at the stars. Do you think people still live out there? Yes, Miran said. There are colonies on 10 planets now, some in deep space too. But they're all far from here. She leaned, her head on the glass. Do they ever feel lonely? I think everyone does, Miran replied. Even when they're with others. Elia was quiet for a moment. Then maybe that's what makes us human, she said softly. Feeling lonely. And still hoping for someone. The next day, Elia asked to see music files from the old archive.miran showed her a folder labeled Earth Songs, Archive 27. Inside were hundreds of songs. Some happy, some sad, some with no words at all. Elia listened to each one with quiet wonder. When she found one that was sung in a soft voice, just a girl on the piano, she stopped. This one, she said. Who is she? Miran looked at the file. That was my sister. Elia looked up quickly. You had a sister? I did, he said. Her name was Mira. She was a singer. Before she passed, she sent me that song. Said it would keep me company out here. Elia looked down. I'm sorry. It's okay, Miran said. She's part of the stars now, like everything we lose. Elia didn't speak for a while. Then softly she said, her voice is warm. I can feel the love in it. Miran nodded. She sang from the heart. That night, Elia brought out the guitar again. She sat across from Miran, the light dim around them. She began to play slowly, copying the tune from Myra's song. Her voice was soft, unsure at first, but each note held emotion. It was not perfect, but it was full of something real. When she finished, she looked at Miran. Was that good? It was beautiful, he said. You sang it like you understood her. Elia lowered her eyes. Maybe I did. Over the next few days, Elia started asking deeper questions. Why do humans dream? Why do they cry when they're happy? What is love? Miran answered the best he could. Dreams are our way of remembering and hoping. Crying is just how our body shows emotion. And love. Love is when someone's happiness matters more than your own. She listened carefully to every word. Then she asked, have you ever loved someone? Miran looked out the window. Yes, A few, and lost a few too. Alia whispered, "Would you be afraid to love again?" He looked at her. Her eyes were soft, like a question waiting for an answer. "No," he said. I think I already." Alia didn't speak. She just reached out and held his hand. One afternoon, while Moran was scanning the escape pod again, he found something strange. The pod's data core had a hidden file. He decrypted it carefully. Inside was something shocking. Elia's DNA wasn't natural. It was engineered, every cell perfect, balanced, stronger than average. Her brain had built-in storage systems. She wasn't born like other people. She was made. Miran sat back in silence. He looked through more files. The pod's label was part of something called Project Aria, a mission from Earth over 250 years ago, designed to preserve human minds in artificial bodies after deep space travel had failed. The ship had been lost. No survivors were ever found. Until Elia. She wasn't just a girl from the past. She was a memory brought to life. Moran didn't tell her right away. He needed time to think. That evening, Elia joined him near the stars again. "I had a dream last night," she said. "I was standing in a white room. There were blue lights. And someone was calling my name." Miran looked at her quietly. "Do you remember anything else?" he asked. Elia shook her head. "Only one word, Vair. It didn't feel kind." "Maybe it was from the ship," he said. She nodded slowly, still looking at the stars. "Miran, do you think dreams can be pieces of who we were?" "Yes," he said. "I think they're windows. Sometimes broken, sometimes clear." Elia placed her hand on the glass. "I want to know who I was, but I'm scared I won't like the answer." Miran reached over and gently touched her shoulder. "No matter what you find, you're still Elia. You're still the girl who sings, who gives names to stars and plants. You're still the one I care about." She turned to him. Her eyes were shiny, but no tears fell. "Then I'll keep looking. As long as you're here." "I'm not going anywhere," he said. And in that moment, the station felt a little warmer. The stars out seemed to move slower. And Elia, whether born or built, felt more human than ever. Elia stood near the water recycler, watching the droplets roll down the glass like falling stars. Everything around her was quiet, except the soft hum of Eden 9's machines. She wore a simple gray suit, too big for her, with the sleeves rolled up. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes were calm. Miran watched from a short distance. He didn't speak at first. He didn't want to disturb her thoughts. Since she woke up, every little thing amazed her. The sound of water, the touch of warm cloth, even the way sunlight passed through the glass dome. "You like it here?" Miran finally asked. Elia turned to him slowly and nodded. "It feels soft," he smiled. "Soft." She pointed at the recycled air blowing through a small vent. "That, the way it moves, the sound. It's not sharp, it's soft." Miran had never thought of air like that before. Later, they sat in the small kitchen room. Miran had prepared a simple meal, dried fruits, warm broth, and a slice of bread. Elia stared at it with curious eyes. "You don't eat?" he asked gently. She looked up, a little shy. "I don't know if I need to, but I want to try." She took a small bite of bread and chewed slowly. Her face didn't change much, but she gave a tiny nod. "It's dry," she said, "but nice." Miran laughed lightly. "That's the best review that bread has ever gotten." After the meal, Elia found an old coat in the storage room. It was too long for her, but she liked how it felt. She wrapped it around herself and walked through the station, asking questions about everything. "What is this button for? Why? Do plants need red light? Why do humans sleep?" Miran answered each question patiently. He had lived here alone for over 2 years. No one had ever asked him such things with so much wonder. As they stood near the observation dome, she asked one more question. Why do humans name stars? He paused. I think it makes the sky feel closer. If you name something, it feels like it belongs to you. She looked at a bright blue star above the Andari belt. Then I want to name that one. What will you call it? She thought for a moment. Luma. Miran nodded. Luma, it suits you. She smiled, but didn't look away from the star. Days passed slowly on Eden 9. Miran fixed the solar panels, UPDATED satellite data, and ran system checks. Alia spent time reading old books, drawing on her tablet, and listening to music. Sometimes they worked side by side. Other times they just sat in silence, but it never felt empty. One evening, she came to the control room holding her drawing pad. I drew something, she said. Miran took it and looked. It was a picture of two figures under a glass dome, sitting side by side. One had dark hair, the other had a long coat. Behind them were stars, and one bright blue one named Luma. You drew us, Miran said. Elia looked down. Is it all right? It's more than all right, he said. It's beautiful. She gave a small smile and sat beside him. That night, Elia couldn't sleep. She walked through the halls of Eden 9 alone, touching the walls, listening to the soft sounds. She stopped near the med bay, where she had first opened her eyes. There, she saw her reflection in the glass. Who am I? She whispered. She touched her own face gently. It felt real, warm, alive, but deep inside, she knew something was missing. A name, a place, a past. The next morning, Miran found her sitting by the hydroponic garden, her arms around her knees. You okay? He asked. She looked up, eyes a little tired. Miran, do you think I'm real? He sat down beside her. You breathe, you feel, you sing, you ask about stars. I think that's more real than most people I've met. But what if I was made to feel this way? She said softly. What if someone wrote lines in me like a book, and now I'm just reading them? Miran looked at her. Even if you were, you still chose to ask that question. She was silent for a while. Then, what am I to you? He didn't answer right away. He gently placed his hand over hers. You're Elia, he said. You're the girl who named a star. You're the voice I heard when the sky felt empty. You're not a program. You're a person. She looked at his hand, then placed her other hand over it. Then I'll believe it, she said softly. Later they sat in the sleeping quarters. The lights were dim. The room was quiet. Elia laid down on the small couch, her head resting near. Miran sighed. She closed her eyes. Is this okay? She asked. Miran nodded. Yes. She moved closer and placed her head gently on his chest. He didn't move. He just listened to the soft rhythm of her breathing, to the silence of the stars outside, to the feeling that something had changed. Elia spoke again, her voice low. This moment, it feels long, Miran smiled. That's because it matters. She whispered, then I want it to last forever. And for a while it did. Miran was alone again. He sat near the wide glass window of Eden 9, watching the stars blink quietly in the dark sky. The research station floated at the edge of the Andari belt, far from Earth, far from the busy colonies. Only a few people came here, and most of them left quickly. But Miran stayed. His job was simple. He fixed satellites, watched weather data, and sent reports back to the main station. Day after day, it was the same. Quiet, empty, cold. That night, as he sipped warm tea and looked at the sky, something changed. A soft beep came from the station. Miran frowned and walked over. A red light blinked, an unknown signal, weak but steady. He pressed a few buttons, bringing up the data. It wasn't from a nearby ship or colony. The signal came from deep space, near a dying red star. He leaned closer. The signal had a voice. Help, please. It was quiet, broken, almost like a whisper. But it was clear, human. Miran's heart beat faster. He knew the rules. Unknown. Signals had to be reported first. He wasn't supposed to go alone. But there was no time. The signal was fading. He quickly set coordinates, prepared his small shuttle, and flew toward the source. The flight was long and silent. The red star ahead glowed like a slow fire in the dark. Near it, drifting in space like a forgotten stone, was a small metal pod. Miran brought the shuttle close. The pod was old, maybe hundreds of years. The surface was scratched, the seal almost broken. But inside, through the small window, he saw her, a girl. She was asleep or unconscious. Her face looked peaceful, her hair floating around her like a cloud. Wires ran from her neck to the walls of the pod. Her breathing was slow, but there. Miran opened the hatch carefully and pulled her into the shuttle. "Hang on," he whispered back at Eden 9. He placed her on the medical table. The eye system ran a full scan. Her body was weak, but stable. No wounds, just quiet, like someone frozen between life and sleep. Hours passed. Miran didn't sleep. He stayed by her side, checking her vitals, watching for any change. He wondered who she was, where did she come from, what ship, what year. Then, finally, her fingers moved. Her eyes opened slowly, blinking at the light. She looked at Miran, confused but calm. "Where am I?" she asked in a soft voice. "You're safe," Miran said gently. "You're on Eden 9, a research outpost." She blinked again. "I don't know this place. What's your name?" She was quiet for a long moment. Then she whispered, "Elia." In the next few days, Elia grew stronger. She walked slowly, spoke carefully, and looked at everything with wonder, like a child seeing the world for the first time. Miran watched her with quiet interest. She didn't remember much. Only small things, the feel of water, the sound of wind, someone whispering her name. Everything else was a blur. One morning, they sat near the window together. She looked at the stars, silent for a while. "Do you ever feel like time stops out here?" she asked. Miran smiled a little. "Sometimes, but I think it just moves slower." She nodded. "In the pod, I dreamed I was falling through stars. But I couldn't touch anything. I was just floating. Forever." "You're not floating now," he said. "You're here." She looked at him with soft eyes. "Thank you." Later, Miran began checking the escape pod for data. It had an old drive, covered in dust and rusted metal. He spent hours fixing it, cleaning the parts, and finally got it to power on. What he found surprised him. Elia's pod was over 250 years old, and her ship, the Solus Venture, was listed as lost in deep space. No survivors, no wreckage. Just a name on an old list. How did she survive all this time? He didn't tell her yet. He wanted to be sure. One night, she found a guitar in the corner of the storage room. It was old, but still worked. Miran told her. It belonged to an engineer who loved music. "Can you play?" he asked. Elia nodded slowly. "I think so." She strummed a few notes, soft and slow. Then she sang, a quiet song, almost like a lullaby. Her voice was gentle, like the wind before. Dawn. Miran closed his eyes. It wasn't just music. It felt like something deeper. Like a voice calling from across time. A memory. A promise. When the song ended, Elia looked at him. Was that human enough? She asked. Miran didn't know what to say. He just smiled. That night, he couldn't sleep. He looked at the data again, searching for more about the Solus Venture. He found something odd in the crew records. Names, all marked artificial consciousness trial subjects. His heart sank. Elia wasn't just human. She was something else. But when he looked at her the next morning, sitting by the window with the guitar in her lap and sunlight on her face, he didn't care. She was here. She was real, and somehow she made the empty stars feel full again.